Our country incarcerates more people per capita than any other nation on earth. We may like to call ourselves the land of the free, but in all reality, we incarcerate a lot of people, millions of people. I am Michael Santos, and together with our team at Prison Professors, we try to help people understand how do you get best outcomes if you're going into the system. And I'm really grateful to the members of our team who work so hard to produce content that will help people really understand. And today I'm going to read content from one of our team members who wrote this great article about surrendering to federal prison and offering 15 tips. So I'm going to read the article because some people consume our content on YouTube, some people get it from our podcast, and we just want to make sure that people can really learn as much as possible regardless of where they are striving to learn about the America's prison system. So here's the question: what happens when I self-surrender? 15 tips. 15 tips for managing the process of self-surrendering to serve a prison sentence. Follow them and put this day behind you. Now, obviously, this article isn't for everybody. It's for people who may be facing challenges from a government investigation, potentially a criminal indictment. Maybe they're going to plead guilty to a crime. Generally, the people that are going to benefit most from this are people who never expected that they would ever see the inside of a jail or a prison cell, but now they find themselves facing this challenge. And here are some tips. Surrendering to serve a prison sentence is likely one of the most challenging things for anyone to do. Up until that point, people have endured arrest, arraignment, pretrial conviction by trial or guilty plea, sentencing, and maybe even a failed appeal. Still, there is a prison sentence to complete. So steel yourself, put one foot in front of the other. And here is the process you can expect on the day of self-surrender. Showing up as prepared as possible is the key to conquering this part of the criminal justice process. Report as instructed. After sentencing, you will receive a letter letting you know where you are designated to report to begin serving your sentence. The date and time and reporting are specified. Be on time. Failure to show up as instructed can be grounds for escape charges. If you encounter any issues on your surrender date, immediately call your attorneys and the prison facility waiting for you to report and let them know what is going on with you. And here is the pro tip. Many people choose to travel to the facility area the day before to minimize possible complications without getting there as instructed. Now, I do want to point out that all of this, that what we just described here in point number 1 is the normal status. Sometimes the Bureau of Prisons makes a snafu and they don't provide that letter on time. But the judge may say you have to surrender to the Bureau of Prisons as instructed by a specified date. If you don't get the letter from the Bureau of Prisons, you're still responsible for surrendering. You just have to surrender to the marshal's office or get your judge to extend the date because that date hasn't been determined yet by the Bureau of Prisons. So make sure that you're aware of that long before the hour that you're supposed to surrender to prison, because as it says there, you don't want to get charged with an escape charge or have something bad on your record. Number 2, receiving and discharge. R&D prison staff manage the processing of new inmates into prison. You may be the only person self-surrendering that day, or you could be one of several. There is no way to know. So, understanding R&D, it's not only you could be the only person there, or you could be with a couple other people surrendering. You could also be surrendering to the prison at the same time that a bus is coming in, carrying many people that were serving time at another facility, and they're all getting checked in at the same time. One thing that you should know is that if you are held in a minimum security camp, such as most white-collar people, you're not going to mix with people going to higher security. Not that that's, the end of the world. It's just, I know a lot of people have anxiety about that. I was in prison in every security level, from high security penitentiaries to medium security prisons to low security prisons and to minimum security camps. And except for in transit centers or in detention centers, they're always going to separate minimum security people. That's not the case in a transit center, as I recall. In a transit center like Oklahoma, they do mix everybody together, but only for a short period of time as they're preparing people for transport. So be patient. Number 3, the intake process can take several hours and is out of a person's control. Be prepared to listen carefully and follow instructions. Be ready to wait your turn and to sit in a holding cell as long as it takes. You may get a brown bag lunch depending on the time of day and the time it takes to get through the intake process. At some facilities, the intake process can go into a second day, in which case you could spend the night in an R&D cell or the special housing unit until they can finish your processing. Pro tip, this has become more common during the COVID pandemic given the testing and quarantine requirements. And I think what she means when the pronoun this has been more common, it's quarantining inside of the special housing unit. Look, I served a lot of time in special housing units. Maybe it's because I was conditioned for being in prison a long time, but it's really not the end of the world if you know that how to strengthen your mind while you're in there. I used to run in place. I would do push-ups. I would read a lot. I would write a lot. It can be difficult to get a great selection of books, so you're going to want your family members to tee things up and send books to you before you get there. Ideally, if you're going to surrender to prison, you might want to have some books sent to you the day before you surrender or 2 days before you surrender, so they're getting there around the same time you're eligible to get mail. Number 4, identification. Using your sentencing paperwork, R&D will confirm your identity. You'll provide a DNA sample, fingerprints, and take a photo for your prison ID. That's one of the processes, the mugshot that you've probably seen on television, movies, and so on. 5, there's a 3-part intake. R&D staff's initial interview is to identify if a new inmate has special medical, social, or mental health needs. The 3 parts of the initial intake process are medical, social, and psychological evaluations. And you want to be prepared before you go. If you have documentation from a doctor, you might want to bring that with you. If you have medication, you might want to bring that with you. In fact, let's see what she writes here on number 6. Medical. If you have a letter from your doctor, here we go. If you have a letter from your doctor describing special medical needs, you'll want to highlight this during this intake process when you're meeting with medical staff. The R&D staff may not review the letter in detail at this point, but they will add it to your file. R&D staff, which is not research and development, but rather release and discharge staff, also look for signs that a new inmate, I hate inmate. And the reason I don't like to say inmate is because you're just a human being. I don't like to use terms of the system. So, if a new person comes into the influence of drugs and alcohol, the staff want to know. R&D staff know that reporting to prison is stressful. They will not be happy to see a person arrive under the influence of drugs and alcohol. So make life easier for yourself. Just don't do it. Don't surrender to prison using drugs. And I'm going to go into this in edit 6, so it doesn't have the word inmate. Social. 7, a key concern here is whether a new inmate should be housed away from the general population for any reason. Okay, I'm just going to say, move on. Psychological. Here's a key concern is whether a person appears to be in severe emotional distress or is experiencing suicidal issues. To the extent possible, you want to remain calm and not lose your composure. Some prisons place new people on suicide watch if those people show signs of significant distress. Bringing in property. There's only a few things people can bring into a prison at the time of self-surrender. Everything else will be thrown away or mailed back home. Anything valued at more than $100, they will not allow. Allowed items include 2 prescription eyeglasses, a plain wedding band, a religious necklace, prosthetics, a religious book like a Bible or a Quran, or the Talmud, dentures and legal papers, not including your pre-sentence investigation report. That's not allowed in prison. Keep a copy of the form documenting the property you were allowed. You may need this form if prison staff ever question you on why you have anything that wasn't brought through the commissary. 10, bringing in cash. If possible, it is helpful to bring some cash to start your commissary account. Cash is processed more quickly than money orders. Having cash will allow you to buy your most needed items, coffee and creamer, phone and email minutes, and so on during your first few days. Most people recommend around $500. More than that can spark suspicions from staff that you do not want to deal with at the time of self-surrendering. Keep the receipt for the cash until you can confirm that prison staff added the correct amount to your commissary account. And strip searching. Just prepare yourself that you're going to have to strip search for a visual inspection to assure you're not hiding any contraband. This is unpleasant and humiliating, but it's just part of the journey. And I think if you steel yourself for it, you're a little stronger. Prison clothes. After the strip search, people typically get a temporary prison uniform. Orientation. There will be at least one full orientation session, if not more than one, after the prison processes the person inside and moves the person into a housing unit. The intake process does not cover everything the person needs to know. Be patient. Take things one step at a time. Many prisons provide a prison handbook or intake that you can start or read when you get to your housing unit. And if you look for your prison on the Prison Professor's website, you'll actually be able to see all that information. We've got descriptions on just about every federal prison. RDAP. If you are a candidate for the residential drug abuse program, you'll want to mention this at intake. In some cases, the people are moved directly into an RDAP housing unit after initial processing instead of going into the general population. And that's a big deal because you want to be admitted into RDAP as soon as possible. Mentors, many prisons assign mentors to help new people get acclimated to the rules of the housing unit and show them around the prison. This is a good opportunity to meet others, ask questions, and get tips to help during the first few weeks in prison. And then we got kind of close out here. There's no doubt that reporting to serve a prison sentence can be daunting and emotionally draining. However, just remember that it's temporary and manageable. Our team at Prison Professors is always here to help people. We provide a lot of free content on our YouTube channel, on our website itself. And, if you go to the top of the page of any of the blogs, you'll be able to download a free copy of some of our books and really learn about how people have gone through this journey successfully. I know that when I went to prison, I didn't have this opportunity to self-surrender. I was arrested on August the 11th, and for the next year, I was in various holding centers and jails, county jails and city jails and federal detention centers and federal holding centers. So, a lot of transient movement, which is really disheartening and can be somewhat, it's complicated. In fact, it's some of the most difficult time in prison because we don't feel stable. And you're around a lot of transients, and you never know who you're around, and it's difficult to get stable. But you always got to have this mindset that I'm going to get through it, because you will. And the more you learn about the system, the less the system can disrupt your mindset or send you into a tailspin. You've always got to be ready to say, okay, I'm going to get hit. I'm going to get moved. I'm going to get, it's going to be disruptive. And if you know, I've got the confidence to get through this because other people have, you feel stronger. And that's really the key to getting through a prison sentence is just, understanding, well, wait a minute, out of every 1,000 people that go into the system, 998 make it unscathed. Unscathed might be a little bit much, but they make it through and they come to the other side. To get through unscathed, you really have to develop this CEO mindset, right? You've got to be able to visualize the best possible outcome. You've got to be able to say, okay, I know what I want, and I know what plan I have to make to get from where I am to where I want to go. So you create that plan. And then you know how to put priorities in place, right? I got to do this, then I'm going to do this, then I'm going to do this, then I'm going to do that. And then you execute your plan. You hold yourself accountable every day. That's the strategy that powered me through 9,500 days in prison. And during that journey, I try to count sometimes all the prisons I was in and jails I was in. And, it's certainly many, right? I started out, let's say if I could do it right here, hypothetically, I started out arrested in Miami. I was at what was called MCC Miami, which is now the federal detention. No, it's now the FCI Miami, but at the time it was a holding center. So I started there. Then I went to Atlanta for holding. I think I went to Atlanta, then El Reno in Oklahoma, then Phoenix, then a series of county jails in Washington, maybe 3 or 4 or 5. Then back to Oklahoma, then back to Talladega, Alabama, then to Atlanta, then to Lewisburg, then to McKean, then back to Lewisburg, to Fairton to Fort Dix, New Jersey, to Florence Camp, Oklahoma, then back to Florence Camp, then from Florence Camp back to Oklahoma, then from Oklahoma to Lompoc, California, then from Lompoc, California to Taft, California, and then from Taft, California to Atwater, then to the halfway house in San Francisco, and then to home confinement after 26 years. So long journey, but I always knew it's my responsibility to make it through. You can read that journey if you'd like in Earning Freedom, which we offer for free in both digital, just on the website at prisonprofessors.com. You could also get the audio version there as well. Subscribe to us on podcasts at iTunes, and you can hear me read it. But in any event, we just want to help you get strong and understand you can make it through this journey, but it's not going to happen by accident. We really encourage you to never see yourself as an inmate or a convict or, a prisoner. You're a human being, and we want you to think of yourself as a human being, and we don't want the system to disrupt your mindset. We want to make you come out strong. Our team at Prison Professors can help. I am Michael Santos, and on behalf of our entire team, we're going to ask you to subscribe to us on YouTube, subscribe to us on the podcast, visit us, and make sure that you are sowing seeds for the best possible outcome. Thanks so much for being a part of our community.